Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long-Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa, and today we have a philosophy student and a volleyball player at the Thompson Rivers University, Brendon Lord. We are going to be discussing how to succeed in volleyball, life after surgery, the role of physical activity in life, moving away from university, working in a team for success, and the meaning of life. Welcome. All right, Brendon, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right, well, I am a philosophy student and a volleyball player at the University of Thompson Rivers in Kamloops, British Columbia. I am in my second year there. I started playing volleyball when I was in grade 5. And I started playing because my older brother played, and I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Brody's a crazy guy when it comes to sports.
Yeah, he's very athletic.
Yeah.
I think I always just kind of followed in his footsteps of whatever he was doing. I started playing basketball and stuff because of him, and we both always played lacrosse. But I definitely think that the more court sports, I kind of followed in his path rather than sticking with lacrosse. And yeah, I think he was a big reason of why I did that. I started playing volleyball grade 5. I kind of didn't really start taking it very seriously and think about my future in it until about grade 9 is when I picked my one sport, stuck with volleyball.
You said you did lacrosse. You did basketball.
I did basketball, lacrosse, and track.
Why volleyball?
I don't know. I think that from the beginning of me playing it, it was definitely the one I was the worst at. So when I was in grade 6, I got cut from my junior high team. I was there was 4 of my friend group in grade 6 who all tried out for the junior high team, and 2 of them made it, and then me and this other guy, we didn't. And then I ended up talking to the coach and ended up redshirting kind of thing, was a practice player, and kind of just got better and better. And then the next year I tried out when I was in grade 7, and I ended up starting everything like that. And I think that kind of almost the failure of it kind of pushed me in the direction of all right, this is more fun,
To yourself.
Yeah, rather than I think, and also too I think I was never really super technically good at basketball. I just think I was quite athletic. I never was a basketball player, you know what I mean? I was always just athletic and could jump and stuff like that. And then I don't know, I kind of fell out of love with lacrosse because I played it for so long, and eventually I kind of just it's one of those things where it's I don't even think I chose it, it was I got put in it when I was 3, and obviously I loved it and everything like that, but it wasn't one of those things that I chose to do. It was kind of or I guess I did when I was younger, but you know what I mean, outgrow some things. And so then I ended up quitting lacrosse when I was...
You did track as well?
I did track, throughout junior high school, up until COVID. And then after COVID, I just kind of was there's no point in me doing this anymore, I too focused on the gym, too focused on school and work and volleyball, and kind of going to the next level, so.
Yeah, you kind of have to choose one sport, because if you have 2 at the same time, then you just have to sacrifice a lot, right? And you would be mediocre in both instead of specializing in one.
Yeah, and I think there are definitely some very unicorn cases of it where you can do both. There's actually a girl at my school this year. She's a rookie, and she's playing basketball and soccer.
Really?
Yeah, which is...
That must be hectic.
Yeah, as a university athlete. So right as her soccer season's ending, she's right into basketball. Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Go.
Yeah.
With volleyball, is it more than just a sport to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that any volleyball person you talk to plays university or college, or even just rec leagues and stuff like that. One of the things that I've always believed is that the volleyball community is so crazy. It's so tight, and everyone knows each other, and it's a very small community, and because of that, it's very accepting and very you get to know people very well in the volleyball community. And so it's always been like more than just a sport kind of thing. It's kind of like what's taken me to university and stuff like that. Like I've always told my coach and stuff that we have these like check-in meetings every year about like where you're at for school and volleyball and personal life and stuff like that. And so he always tells me, like, oh, where are you at for school? And I've always said the same thing the past 2 years. I'm like, I have no idea. Like I don't know what I want to do in school. I'm here to play volleyball. This is kind of where volleyball's taken me, and it just happens that I have to be registered in classes to play. With that being said, like obviously I'm still trying to work towards a degree, but it's just like I don't know what I want to do with the degree yet, and I'm kind of just taking a degree to take, like, cause I kind of have to, and I'm like, if I'm in this position, I might as well get a degree, because you know what I mean, I'm going to school anyway. So
volleyball has taken you to this path.
Yes.
And you're doing everything to make it work. Right?
Yeah.
And you're passing your classes, you're moving away for it.
Yeah.
And how do you balance school and practice?
Honestly, when I first moved away, I thought it was going to be like very tough. But like the nice thing, so in my first year, we practiced kind of like later in the day. Like we practiced like 8 to 10:30 at night, which kind of crushed like our team's social life at times, because like you don't really have you can't really do anything in the evenings. Your evenings are taken up, but it made like balancing class life really easy, because like you can take classes at any time throughout the day and it wouldn't affect practice. But then like moving forward in this year, it was like we're practicing 3:30 to 5:30 some days, and then some days we're practicing 4:30 to 6:30. And because of that, you kind of like have to like choose when your classes are and everything like that. Sometimes you're leaving class a little bit early to go to practice, or leaving practice a little bit early to go to class, or missing a practice to go to class. But honestly, like I think when you get in the rhythm of it in the first couple weeks of the beginning of the semester, it just begins to flow a lot easier, and you kind of like find these like time frames of like, I can do this here, I can do some homework here, if I need to meal prep I can do it here, like I can work out here, kind of thing. So you kind of like, you figure out your schedule pretty good, and you kind of just like stick to it, and any like free time you have, you kind of just like hold on to it nice and tight.
Yeah. I know with student athletes, you guys really have to make it work with the time, because practice is at this time, and you can't just change it to align with your classes.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes maybe you have to sacrifice sleep. Mm-hmm. Have you run into that?
I think I'm a very big like sleep advocate. Like I believe that some people call it laziness. I just love my sleep. I think it's like very important.
Sleep's great, man.
Sleep's great. Mm-hmm. And so they're honestly like, I don't like to sacrifice sleep to go to class. I'll do it, and since we practice like later in the day, like I usually won't like have to sacrifice sleep for practice. But there has been quite a few of 8:30 classes I like don't go to because I like want to sleep in. And like just, or like I'm up a little late and I'm finishing some assignments or something like that, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna not go to class today just because I'd rather get the 8 hours of sleep and be able to go to practice, have a good practice, and then work on some school, whatever class I can figure it out, like play catch up.
That's a lot more efficient, I'd say, right? Because if you show up to class and you're not fully present, let's say you got 6 hours, which isn't really enough, rather than showing up 8 hours, and you can actually engage in all the activities with 100%. Instead of just giving everything like 60%, why do that? Yeah. And sleep's one of those tools, right? If you show up for practice, show up for school, sleep is such a great tool to optimize everything. Yeah, a lot of people should really recognize that. And I'm the same way, man. Yeah,
like I know that there's some guys on my team who like they don't need lots of sleep to run. Yeah. Like guys on my team, that have played matches and stuff on like 3-4 hours of sleep, and they play fine, and they're just like, it's like all good for them. But me personally, I'm just not. That's not me. That's never been me.
But imagine if they got like 8 hours.
Yeah, I think that. I don't know if it would make that big of a difference at times. Honestly, like, yeah, I'm not sure. Some guys are just built different. I know like some guys who can go on 3-4 hours of sleep and they're fine, but I'm just not one of those guys. So
with all the people that you've met,
Yeah.
because in the sport of volleyball, you're constantly cooperating with the team. You're
Yeah.
constantly trying to get better,
Mhm.
not only with yourself but with the team. So, how does one succeed in a team setting?
I think like a lot of it is you kind of like make a lot of sacrifices, and it's like a lot of like you have to get rid of like a selfish mindset. So we have next year we're gonna have 24 guys on our team, but only 14 dress. So there's gonna be 10 guys who are not playing on the weekends, or not even dressing on the weekends, not traveling on the weekends. And I think that it's like one of those things where you really have to like, you have to like be okay with like team success over personal success, and I think that that's like one of the very hard things to do. But I think one of the things is too that you kind of like slowly realize it's like, yeah, you gotta like be very like team oriented and think that like do what's best for the team, but at the same time you want to like obviously be trying to better yourself and competing, right? And so we kind of like, I think a lot of us like have we're like, obviously we need to like do best for the team when it becomes game time and stuff, and when it's like traveling. But I think like a lot of us have a good understanding that like when it comes to practice and stuff, you're trying to prove your spot and you're trying to, you know what I mean? So I think that I know like a lot of guys on our team, like mainly I know I'm big for it, and there's like a couple of other guys on our team who are big for it. We like love to trash talk even during practice, like especially when it comes to scrimmages and stuff. Like, you know, you're going at everybody like on the other side of the net.
It helps you up.
Yeah, it gets you going, and it creates like a really good, really good environment for getting better and everything like that, and competing and stuff. So.
Yeah, dude, that like, I don't know, trash talking to me too. I mean, I've never really played a sport, but like I've played board games. You know, I played like phys ed. I played just in a competitive setting. Trash talking just really hypes you up.
Yeah,
and it's just for people that really do mean it, and they're actually like, it's just part of the game sometimes. You know,
and that's the thing too, is like I think we've had guys on our team who've gotten like maybe rookies, especially like I guess I'm only in my second year, but I came out last year like right out of the gate as a rookie, like firing pretty hard, like with the trash talk, and a couple guys didn't like it, a couple of guys loved it.
I heard about it.
Yeah,
racist.
And and so I think that when you have that, and then coming into my second year, I remember like at the beginning of the year trash talking quite a bit, and I wasn't even playing this year, like with surgery and everything, so I wasn't even like playing during scrimmages. So I was just trash talking from the sidelines. Whoever I could go after.
Hey, you're not jumping.
Dude, we had me and this guy on my team, Riley. We were both. He was out with a concussion, and we were sitting on the sidelines of our scrimmage, just going after one kid, one of the rookies. Dude. And the thing is one of our 5th year guys was going after him too. He was on the other team. So he was just going after him, and then as soon as we saw it was like kind of flustering him, me and Riley just started. We just started going at him, and it was great. So
was the results what you guys expected?
No, he was pretty upset. We talked, or I did. I talked to him after. I was like, "Hey, dude, like, expect more. You know, like expect us to come after you, kind of thing." And he definitely got better with the trash talk. He never really dished it out, or he would try to dish it out, and you would just hit him 10 times worse, and he would stop. He's a good guy, obviously. Like, there's nobody on my team who I don't like. Everyone's great. But yeah, it's like it just kind of builds like a team environment kind of thing. So
yeah, fair. With the trash talking, is that just normal in volleyball?
I don't know, actually. Like I think that like a lot of times you're not really talking directly to the other team, but a lot of times you're like saying stuff on your side of the net that you like want the other guys to hear. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, if they're like left side's bad, you're like, all right, like don't worry about the left side. He's not gonna do anything. Like
you kind of say it at a volume where like you're not being too loud, but you're being loud enough where they can
hear you, and you want to make But there has definitely been like I know some teams that we play against. It's a lot. There's more trash talk than there would be. We have like a like inter BC kind of like rivalry with UBCO. Yeah, we just it always gets pretty chippy. Same with UBC. Yeah, gets like pretty trash talk quite a bit. But also too, there's a couple guys on UBC who like to run their mouth. Who maybe it's not warranted that they do. But, yeah.
But you really gotta take it with a grain of salt too,
yeah.
right? Like if you're going there and you're just too aggravated, sometimes when you're actually too aggravated, that screws with your senses, man.
Well, for sure, yeah. And I think it definitely like messes you up if you're. You know, if you're pouring too much of yourself into the trash talk rather than to like actually playing, the game,
I think that the goal of the trash talk is to get into their heads.
Not into your own head.
Yeah, not into your own head. Because if you're the one that initiates it, and you're the one that's actually more aggravated, and you can't play anymore, and you're screwing up your serves, and you can't defend as well, and
I think a big my like favorite or one of my favorite athletes is Kevin Garnett because he was just the best trash talker. Just like. Everyone just hated him, and that's awesome to me. Like
he just didn't care.
He just didn't care. He was a beast. He was a beast, anyways. So
that's really respectable, man. For people to say that this person like doesn't really care what others think. That's so. I revere those people because it's so hard in a lot of people, right? Because we all are just conditioned to really care what other people think.
Yeah, for sure.
And we want everyone to like us.
Yeah,
but. At the same time, we gotta pursue our dreams and ambitions. And you know what? If trash talking helps us, as long as it's not putting other people down, too personal.
And that's the thing is, I think that there's always that line that I don't know. There has never really been like a line crossed from me, at least. Yeah. I think maybe there has been, and I'm just blind to it. But
some people are sensitive, man.
Yeah, some people are sensitive. I actually remember when I was in grade 12.
Yeah.
We were playing like in a grass volley league, and I was playing against Bryce in the finals.
Oh yeah.
And we just let him have it. It was like me and I don't remember who was on my team. This kid named Ronan, I went to high school and played volleyball with, good friend. I forget who the other two guys were, but we just let them have it the entire time. And Bryce afterwards, he like came up to me. He's like, "Dude, like that was a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the point. Like you were pretty flustered the entire time."
Your head. Yeah. But I've talked to Bryce. He was just on this podcast, and you know he's told me that those times have helped build him. And the guys he's talked about just being under fire in the team as well, and getting all the being chippy with the other teammates. And if you can't take it, if you can't handle it, maybe this isn't for you. And he says that that's the reality of it.
Yeah, right? I think too, college volleyball. I've heard is like, so there's like two different leagues in Canada. Right. So there's like CCAA, which is like college, and then there's U Sport. And so I think CCAA, which is like for the league Bryce plays in, I would say the trash talk and stuff there is more than like the league I'm in. I've never actually like I didn't play CCAA, but I've heard like a lot of stories, and just some of it's just crazy. Like especially when you go out east. And like in like Ontario and stuff, apparently it just gets just wild. And I think that's like just kind of like the different cultures. Like obviously like the college life is like a little bit more different. Like there's a lot more partying and stuff like that from my understanding of it. And I think that there's like some guys who like there's a lot of guys who are in college playing volleyball just to like kind of be with the boys, stuff like that. And then when you go to university, there's like a lot more guys who are like trying to become professional athletes. Obviously, you still get both sides in the CCAA. Like you still have like the guys who are trying to become professional and stuff like that. But it's like very regular to play against a guy who like is on the national team or is like gonna be on the national team in the future, or like played like part of like a junior or youth national team. So, and I think I don't know what it is, but just like I've heard college is just like a different kind of beast when it comes to like trash talking and like the student sections apparently just get absolutely wild. So,
really?
Yeah. I think it's Lakeland or something. I'll have to check with Bryce, but there's a university that like they bring like dogs into like into their dogs. Yeah, like chihuahuas and they're barking. Chihuahuas are barking the entire time and like
that's great. I like that.
Just like be so distracting, and so I could see it being pretty tough. Even like
to their heads.
Yeah, even I saw a photo of Bryce at the like I think it was like the CCAA or maybe ACAC finals or something like that, and their women's team was playing in it, and their entire team was there in like face paint and had like pots and pans and stuff. That kind of stuff's like that's pretty sweet. So
I know there's like a lot of the sport is psychological.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who is a bit on the sensitive side, who wants to build up their resiliency, and they want, maybe they're a good player, but it gets into their head some of these words, right? Some of these, the vibe that's coming around. How would you advise someone to?
I don't even, honestly, I would say, like, I've never been in a place where, like, I've really, like, let that kind of stuff get to me. Mm-hmm. I think just, like, growing up, like, playing lacrosse and stuff, like, it was a lot worse for, like, the trash talk and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And so I don't know, I've never been in a place where, like, I've had to, like, be like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get over what this guy said across the net. Like, it's never like that.
How do you do it? Like, do you just not think
tone it? I just laugh, dude. Yeah. Like, some of the stuff, like, it's just, like, comical. It's just, like, it's comical. Like, I just sit there, I'm like, wow. I'm like, and it's great when you sit there, and I think the best part about it is like, when you just, like, sit there and they're, like, trying to chirp, and you're just, like, what? Like, you're just, like, you don't even give a reaction, you kind of just, like, laugh. It's, like, it's more gonna get in their own head, you know what I mean? And I think that, like, I think, like, too, like, there's different, I guess, like, communities in volleyball. So, like, the beach community is very different than, like, the indoor community. Like, I don't think that there's, like, a whole lot, I haven't experienced it, at least, there's not, like, a whole lot of trash talk going on beach. Like, it's a lot more friendly of a sport than, like, the trash talk, like, on the court side of it. But I think, like, for the most part, like, I've been pretty good with, like, I never really get, like, it never really gets to me that much, you know what I mean? Like, especially, like, when we're in, like, the team settings of, like, guys going at me and stuff like that, like, during scrimmages, it's like...
Is it because you're just so used to it? Or you don't think too much about it? Or
I would say both, yeah. Like, I think, like, if guys are, like... That's what I always find funny is, like... If a guy, like, gets, like, seriously flustered about something someone's saying during a team scrimmage, you're just like, dude, like, what are you, like, how? There's no way you're actually upset, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way, like, this, like, actually offends you. I know that, like, I bet it, like, it can be stressful, like, as a rookie and coming in, and, like, I think if you're in your, like, first couple weeks of practice and, like, you just have these, like, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, like, just, you're, like, an 18-year-old, sometimes 17. Yeah. You have these, like, pretty much, like, almost like some of them are men, you know what I mean? Just, like, going at you. I can see how it's, like, quite intimidating and stuff like that. I know, like, when I came into my first year, our libero, his name's Dylan, he, like, we would just go at each other anytime I was scrimmaging, we'd just go at each other. And I remember he had, like, a conversation with me one time. He's like, dude, like, I love the energy and everything. I love the trash talking. Like, it brings something to practice that, like, we need, kind of thing. So
yeah, it's I think it serves a good thing for you, right? And you've used it as a way to fuel your gameplay, as a way to make you a better player.
Yeah,
right. And a lot of players should do this, because instead of thinking too much about it, you should use it as fuel. Yeah. To prove them wrong. That, hey, what you're saying is not true. I'm gonna defeat you. Yeah. Right? I'm gonna prove you wrong. Yeah. So you had said earlier about how you want the team to win. Right? You need to prioritize. You need to be a team player, but at the same time, you want to be in the court. You want to be playing. So how do you balance prioritizing the team and prioritizing yourself?
Yeah, I think that, like, a big thing that it comes down to is just, like, realizing that, like, practice is where you're gonna, like, prove yourself. And our coach says it all the time. It's like, if you can't perform in practice, then why would I put you in a game? So I think that, like, that's one of the things is, like, just being, like, I guess, like, trying to, like, do your best in practice and stuff like that, and, like, not envying other guys when they get the chance and you don't, kind of thing. Yeah. Excuse me. And so I think just, like, that is kind of, like, the main thing is, like, try to make sure that you're kind of, like, pushing yourself forward, but realizing it's okay that, like, other guys are going to be playing over you, you're going to be dressing over you and stuff like that. And I think that was, like, one of the hard things in my first year where, like, I was like, all right, like, I felt like I was doing good in practice. I felt like I was playing well and stuff, but I didn't get, like, my opportunities until kind of, like, the later half of the year. It kind of it took, like, a semester, I guess, to, like, get rolling and stuff like that. And then, yeah, I got my first start when it was second semester, like second weekend. And it like felt good and everything like that. And but I think like one of the biggest things is like just realizing like you're trying to beat guys out and everyone is your competition, but at the end of the day, you're working towards a common goal. So you can only really benefit the team if you are going to advance your team to that common goal better than someone else would, right? So because of that, like I think if there's someone who's playing over you who's better, it's like you kind of gotta accept it and just like work harder during practice and stuff like that and do other things to be able to do better than that person would. You know what I mean? And so I think like a big thing that comes from that is like acknowledging that you may not be where you're at, but like if you want to get to like where you're at kind of thing, you gotta work a little bit harder. And it's not that you're trying to have like personal success, but rather putting your team first and realizing if I can have better personal success and it can help the team win, that's kind of like the goal.
So it's by focusing on yourself and trying every day, putting yourself out there in practice.
Yeah.
This would help the team.
Yeah.
So by focusing on how your game plan is, instead of focusing on, oh, hey, how come that guy got more time?
Mm-hmm.
That guy is a better player. This guy's this is, instead of comparing yourself to other people,
Yeah.
you just show up there, you focus on your weaknesses or your strengths. And you had said earlier, and the reason you were attracted to volleyball was because you weren't really great at it.
Yeah.
So in a way, your first year, second year, because you didn't get as much playtime as you expected, could this have fueled your passion, your drive to want to be able to get better? Right?
I think that saying I didn't get as much playtime as I expected is like the wrong way to put it, because like I don't think you come in and they tell you right off the bat, it's like don't have expectations of how much you're gonna play. So I think that it wasn't even like I expected, you know what I mean, like more playtime. I just think that like you see guys and you're like, all right, I gotta just like work a little bit harder and get better and stuff like that. And we had this, it was in my first year, this guy had this word. The word is like Wabutu. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
Wabutu, no.
It's like, it means I am because you are. And basically what that means is like in like a team setting and stuff, like you can only like really be as good as like your weakest player kind of thing. And it's like that's like another big part of like the team success is like you have to be getting better and stuff like that, because in order for like the guys around you to get better, you have to be better. Because if you have like your best six scrimmaging on one side and you're scrimmaging like a bunch of bums, it's not really gonna benefit the better six, right? So your best six has to go against a group of six guys who are very close to or somewhat close skill level and intensity level to be able to actually push them to get better. So like we always do like A side versus B side, right? So like starting six versus backup six. And obviously like backup six, it should lose every time. But the days that we win are like kind of the days where we're like, all right, like this means we're gonna be better as a team kind of thing. So I remember like once this year, there's like this like wash drill we do. And it's basically like you have to like, it's first to 3 points, but in order to get a point, I think you need to get a point on serve, a point on receive, and a point on a free ball, and then defend to get the big point. And so we swept our starting 6-3-0. Like we won 3 big points in a row. And that was like one of those things where like us guys on like the non-starting side were like, oh damn, like that was like, that's good. Like that means that we're like actually giving them a challenge and we're not just like, you know what I mean? So I think that that's something that like we kind of take as like little successes within the team of like, this means we're going to be pushing the starting 6 guys to be better. You know what I mean?
So you recognize the weaknesses, because they're still part of the team.
Yeah.
And one day they won't be starting anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They'll have to replace the people up top. So yeah, that's who established this. And I know it with everything. It always comes from the top. Right?
Yeah.
So the coach, like, how crucial does a coach play into a team's?
Yeah, I think it's like everything. I think like I'm very fortunate to have the coach I do. I think he's like amazing. He's more than just a coach, in my opinion. Like, he's been there for us, like, through everything, and, like, he's a great guy, great dad, just, like, a great person, who's, like, kind of, like, helped a lot of us succeed, not just in volleyball. And so we sit down as a team every year and, like, talk about what we want to be as a team. So, like, I kind of guess that's where, like, our main, like, ideas and stuff come from, is, like, where do we want to be as a team? What are our team goals? Everything like that, right? So I think it comes not just from, like, above. We kind of instill these things as a group, and then he really forces it on us, and is like, all right, like, one of our big things is, like, when we step in the gym, we want to get better every day. And it's like at the end of the practice, he'll, like, tell us, like, all right, like, today I think our program, like, took a step forward, or, like, I don't think we got better today. You know what I mean?
It's great that you had mentioned the coach just talks about life as well. It's not just about the sport, because in the sport you get to deal with the trash talk, you get to deal with kind of the comparison, you get to deal with how to be a better player, constant improvement. There's that doubt, there's that shame, and there's that just overall, it's not just a sport, right?
Yeah.
So is there what's your favorite part about it all? Right, about the entire experience?
The team.
The team.
Yeah. Dude, like, it's undoubtedly, like, being part of, like, a family and stuff like that. It's like different than, I guess, like, I would have expected, like, moving away and stuff, and, like, living with some guys on the team, and, like, you just really become, like, family. Like, even to, like, my roommate from last year, his name's Archie, he's from England. He comes home with me for Christmas every year now. Yeah. Which is, like...
Oh, I think the really tall guy?
The really tall guy, yeah.
Oh,
like, tall, blonde.
Yeah. That's it. Dude, he's massive.
Yeah, he's, like, 6'9". He's a big boy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he comes home with me for Christmas and stuff, and, like, we've done team trips and stuff like that. So we went to... in my first year, we went to Arizona and, like, played against some Division I teams and did some hiking and stuff like that. And then this next Christmas, we're going to Turkey for a month with the team, or 3 weeks or something like that. So it's just, like, yeah, I think, like, the guys is, like, it's, like, uncomparable to, like, club teams and stuff. Because, like, another cool thing is that we don't have anybody that is from Kamloops. So everybody's in the same situation of living away from home. Yeah. We have 3 guys coming next year who are from Kamloops, and those are, like, the first 3 that we've, like, had, I think, ever. That, like, have come straight to TRU from Kamloops. So you get, like, it's kind of like one of those things where, like, we all experience the same thing of, like, we're all homesick come October. We all don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, we all have to deal with rent. We all have to deal with, like, figuring it out together and stuff like that, and, like, cooking and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I guess you kind of, like, you're all in the same boat. And I think that's, like, one of the very cool things about, like, our team in specific is, like, since nobody's, like, living at home, you're all, like, there's honestly, like, not a lot of athletes at TRU who are from Kamloops. So, like, there's just, like, a lot of people in general in the sports, like, in our community and stuff with, like, the Wolfpack that are not, like, there's not a lot of people from Kamloops. So, like, they're all kind of in the same boat. Everybody's
just from different provinces, different, like, countries.
Yeah.
And you're all just struggling financially, whether being homesick, just relationships, and just being the first time away from home, right? And that just bonds you guys. And so it's truly beautiful how teams can connect you that way. And that's the volleyball team that you've got. You guys seem very close. And I've found that from talking to, I've released 20. You're the 22nd. Episode 22 now, and I found that every single person always goes back to that. Like, they say, I had the hairstylist yesterday, Marissa, she said her favorite part about the business is connection. Same with Bryce, he talks about that too. Severity.
Bryce is a very for the boys sport.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like that's kind of the focal point for everything, man. And just while you want to improve in volleyball, or you want to get better, you want to get more play time, you want to succeed in school, the connection's all there, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the answer.
Yeah, for sure.
So can we let's talk about the surgery you just had, right? That was quite the, it must have been nerve-wracking, man.
Yeah, it was, so for those of you guys who don't know, I was playing in a league in the summer called V-League this last summer, and I like wiped a ball into a block and popped my shoulder out of place, so I dislocated it. I tore my labrum and my supraspinatus. And so originally, like with physio and stuff, I was like just gonna kind of like push through the pain for the season and then try to get surgery as soon as the season was done. But I like swung on a couple of balls and it popped out a couple more times, like just from literally swinging on a ball. So so we like talked to my surgeon and stuff back in Kamloops, who was like with the school, and he was just like, yeah, like we need to do surgery if you want to play again, kind of thing. So it was like, I got my shoulder redone on January 11th, so I waited the whole first semester, like just to see the surgeon and stuff.
Is this year?
Yeah. Okay. So it's been 3 months now since surgery.
How does it feel?
It feels pretty good, honestly. Like I feel, it feels like, it doesn't feel amazing yet. There's like some days where it's better than others. But like overall, I would say that it's worse than it was before the injury, but better than it was after the injury. So in like the time from May until January, when it was still all torn up, it feels better than it did then. Which is like a positive, obviously.
But you must have been terrified to not be able to play anymore, right?
Yeah, it definitely took a lot to kind of like adapt my life to like not, you know what I mean, like not being like a student athlete anymore. Like at times, like I felt as if I was like just a student, which obviously like sucked. But I think I kind of like started to like see like the light at the end of the tunnel of like, once I got surgery, I was like, all right, like it's really only going up from here. Like there's really not much worse it could get in terms of this injury. So when I got the surgery and stuff, I was like, all right, I can't, because like before I was practicing, but I was like just getting passing reps and defense reps. I couldn't swing or serve. So I was like working on like the things I needed to work on, right? And so it was like actually kind of like not a blessing that I got injured, but like it definitely will be one of those things that like I will look back at down the line and be like, all right, I'm a lot better of a volleyball player now because I got injured, because I was able to focus so much more on passing and defense and stuff like that. And so like looking back at like surgery and stuff, like I remember being not exactly like terrified of getting surgery necessarily, but I remember being like, all right, like this is gonna suck. My life is gonna suck for the next little bit. And also too, because my roommate had just gotten reconstructive knee surgery a couple weeks prior. So she did her meniscus, I believe, and then her so she got like reconstructive surgery, and I remember she was in quite a bit of pain. She was like in shambles. So
surgery's a massive event, man.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I remember like after seeing her, I was like, damn, like this is gonna suck.
It must have intensified your expectations of like worry and fear, right? Just seeing what she's going through.
Yeah, I think it definitely did. And like I remember being like very thankful that she was there, because like she did help me quite a bit. And like I have like a photo on my Instagram of like her putting my socks on, because like I couldn't put my socks on.
Just couldn't move.
Yeah, I couldn't move my shoulder or anything. I was in a sling for 6 weeks or something like that, 8 weeks. So but yeah, like it's nice to come back and like be able to kind of get back into training and start to kind of like ramp it up a little bit.
And what's it like being under? You know, did they put you to sleep?
Yeah, I rolled up to the surgery at like 4 in the morning, and I remember like getting changed, everything, sitting there, and then met with the surgeon. They wheeled me into like the operating room, and then they just like they popped an IV in me. They're like, all right, you're gonna go under soon, and then I just woke up and I was.
Yeah,
that's the last thing I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't feel anything?
No, I didn't feel anything.
Dreams or
no? I just woke up. I remember like waking up and being like, oh my gosh, like where, like what, and then just going right back to bed. And I slept for like, I think like after surgery, I probably slept for like 7 hours, like in the hospital, just because the amount of like drugs I was on. They knocked me out pretty good, which was like pretty sweet. So the drug nap was nice.
I've heard of stories of people not getting enough. What's the drug they use again to put you to sleep? Something.
Okay.
And they just wake up mid-surgery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
Jeez.
But it doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. And the nice thing is too is like my anesthesiologist was like pretty sweet, and like he did like a good job of like he was like, oh, like because like I remember like talking to him and like talking to my anesthesiologist prior, like a couple weeks prior to surgery, and he was like, hey, like you have to like you can't smoke weed for 2 weeks before, you can't drink alcohol, you can't use any drugs. So they're like just for like the narcotics and stuff like that. And so I remember like him talking to me. He's like, all right, like we're gonna administer you quite a bit of stuff because you're a big boy. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So they knocked me out pretty good, which was like nice. And then they gave me like nerve blockers, so like to make sure I really couldn't feel anything. So I remember like waking up and being like, oh,
my arm's cut off.
I'm like, no, not even that. I remember being like, oh, this ain't even bad. Like, this is like, this doesn't really hurt. Like, I'm fine. But I remember the hardest part is they wouldn't let me leave until I could piss.
Really?
Yeah, because they were like scared.
By yourself?
By myself.
Yeah, okay.
Because like the nerve blockers, like, whatever, they like messed up, so I couldn't pee. Yeah. So I had to get a catheter.
Wow.
And yeah, because like it was like I was saying to the doctor, I was like,
was that painful or?
I couldn't feel it. No, I couldn't feel anything. I remember like being like saying to the nurse like, I really have to pee. I'm like, I really, really have to pee. And she was like, okay, we'll go pee. And I was like, I remember like walking back and forth to like the bathroom like 3 or 4 times before finally the nurse was like, we're just gonna give you a catheter. Yeah. And I was like, no, please no.
Like, please no, anything but the catheter.
Yeah, I was like, please no.
Right.
And so yeah, it was so I ended up getting the catheter, and then like an hour and a half later, I peed finally, and then I got sent on my way. So I remember the day after though was awful, dude. Like the pain, I woke up and just like was puking because of how much pain I was in.
Would you say it's the most painful experience in your life?
No. When I popped out my shoulder was way worse. Yeah. Yeah. Close. How would you describe it? Dude, it was just like, it just like makes you feel sick because of how much pain you're in. Like I've heard that like dislocating your shoulder is like one of the most painful things you can do. And so I remember when I popped it out, I was in so much pain, and they gave me Fent at like the hospital that I went to, like to put me under and stuff. And the next day it wasn't too bad. I think like the actual like pain I was in during like when I popped it out was just like it's just gross because I didn't have any like painkillers or anything like that.
I can't imagine, man.
So like that was like one of the things I think that like really helped me through surgery is like they just gave me like a bunch of drugs, and like it just I didn't get through all of them because I knew that like they were giving me opioids, so I was like I don't really want to get addicted and stuff like that because I've heard of like athletes coming off of surgery being like pretty heavily addicted to painkillers.
I've heard of that too.
So I was like very cognizant of like I talked to my doctor and stuff, and I was like, listen, like, are you guys all good with me smoking weed instead? They're like, yeah, like whatever. And I was like, it's probably a little bit better for me than just slamming like you know, so yeah, like tramadol and everything. So
dude, I watched this show, man. It's Painkiller. It's on Netflix.
Yes,
OxyContin.
OxyContin, yeah.
With the silent N. Oxycontin.
OxyContin, yeah.
Cotton. Okay.
Well,
yeah, they advertise it. Purdue Pharma advertised that to be like really.
It's good.
Safe.
It works.
It works, right? But it didn't. Over time, it was just like heroin. It's
definitely not great for you, but it works. It's
kills the pain, but it gets you addicted in the end.
No, for sure.
It destroys families. You pretty much touched up on everything about surgery. Yeah, pain and bro, that is insane, man. To go through surgery at such a young age, but it's great though that you're young. Yeah, I've like people that have done it in their 40s, 50s.
It doesn't.
You don't recover as well. Yeah,
and you know what? I think that growing up like in like playing sports and stuff my whole life, like I've seen a lot of guys who get surgery and who have come back after and stuff, and so like one of my best friends from high school, Brett, he tore his ACL when he was in grade 12. We were in grade 12, so he got surgery. And then actually my friend Jesse, one of our other really good friends, he tore it when he was in grade 12. He's a year ahead of me, so last year. He tore his ACL and just got surgery this past couple little bit. And then I remember talking to this kid I went to high school with, who's a year older than me. He actually got the same surgery done that I had done. So I remember like talking to him a little bit about it, and just like chatting about like how good it was, how bad it was, everything like that. And so it was like nice to like be able to like connect with someone who had actually like had the surgery and stuff like that. So
it's insane how connected you feel when you go through immense pain, and come out of it on the other end. And when you're talking to someone that has gone through that, they get it.
Yeah.
Right? They really get what you went through. Because you're describing the surgery to me, you're describing the pop, but I don't truly know what it's like up until it happens to me. I can just picture it in my head. I can imagine what it's like.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's probably nothing close to how you felt that day, right?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't fun.
Did you touch up on the recovery process for that? What
No, so
make you do?
So like starting off like after the first 2 weeks, they kind of like had me just like moving my shoulder like just like in small circles to try to like make sure I didn't get frozen shoulder. And then eventually like we kind of moved on to like slower resistant stuff, like just like isometric stuff, and then eventually like fully like moving my shoulder and stuff like that. So it's like kind of a very up and down process, because like you always feel as if you're moving forward, but like in reality that's not the way that like anything goes, you know? So I think like parts of me, there was like some days where like I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I feel great, like I'd go to rehab, go to physio or the gym, everything would be good. Then other days I'd wake up and just like in just so much pain, like even after even like months after surgery, right? And so part of it's just like kind of like staying disciplined with like knowing that like there's gonna be ups and downs to it. And like even too like a guy at my school got his ACL redone, and like talking to him, it's been like a year since surgery, and he even sometimes he's like, yeah dude, like sometimes you just wake up and it hurts, and that's just like the reality of it. Like some days it's just naturally gonna hurt, you know. And I think just like pushing past that to like be able to like slowly like get back into sport and training and stuff like that. So I think that like slowly doing like the rehab and stuff, and like really just being careful. And one of the things I had a physio say, he like posted this thing on Instagram about, he's like, yeah, like speeding through recovery or speeding through your rehab is like speeding in a car. And he was saying, he's like, you don't get anywhere actually that much faster, but there's like large risks that come with that. Yeah, so it's like one of those things where it's like you can really, really push yourself in physio, but like there's a big chance of you re-tearing it, and you're not really going to get anywhere faster, right? And so I think that I've kind of like been like very like trying to be very patient with like letting the whole process heal and like have it like work itself out while like still trying to push myself, you know.
And it's not to the same degree as you, but I was squatting 315 for the first time in like grade 12.
Yeah.
And I wasn't tightening my core. I wasn't wearing the proper footwear.
Yeah.
I had just didn't get enough sleep that day, not enough food, wasn't really feeling it. Going down, boom, I just felt it pop, and it hurt to sit after that for years, man.
Yeah.
It took me like 6 months of physio, just a year of chiro, and I got this done, that done. I never had to resort to surgery, but it's still not 100%.
Yeah, what was it?
I don't really know. I never got an MRI, I never got an ultrasound, but it's still not 100%.
Yeah.
I just do what chiros told me to do.
Yeah.
And I just do that every day, and it's never there. And I make sure my form is all good now.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how fragile human body can be.
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned all your buddies having the ACL, their shoulder, their knees, and one time it takes, right? One little misstep,
and you're done for a year.
Yeah, I had Simon Francesca.
Okay.
He came, and he had screwed up his knee, just fucked it up, and he couldn't play his last year of football. Yeah, it was practice too.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Just blew out.
I think one of the worst things is hurting in a different sport.
Oh, dude,
like there's a kid on my team last week.
Yeah.
Like literally a couple days ago, he was playing basketball and like kind of like jammed his like hand into somebody, and like it's like all black and like swollen and stuff, and like they said that he like popped a tendon or something like that, like playing basketball.
Dude, no. Oh man, that's the worst.
Yeah.
What would you advise to someone who needs to get surgery and they're just putting it off because they're scared?
Yeah, I think you just gotta do it, dude. Like, I don't really have any advice where I could be like, oh, like, find a surgeon that you like and just kind of realize that, like, it's not ever gonna be better and stuff until you get surgery. Like, you can do, like, a bunch of physio, obviously, and, like, I guess it depends really on the like, how serious the tear is and stuff. 'Cause, like, I know some people, like, who have torn the same thing in their shoulder as I did, but mine was just way more severe. So some people, like, some injuries you don't need surgery for, right? Like, some you can have a torn ACL that you don't need surgery for, but there's some torn ACLs that you do need surgery for, right? And so I think if you are at a point where you definitely need surgery, then you just need to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you just need to get it done, and just honestly, like, if it's a scared thing, just stop being a, like, you know,
Stop being a pussy.
Stop being a pussy. Just get it done.
I have a buddy, and he's been needing surgery for like 3 years now, man. He's just putting it off. He doesn't do sports.
Okay.
So he just, like, he had to quit work recently, but he's just scared. He just doesn't want to do it, and that's like the only solution, because he's gone to physio, he's gone to chiro.
Yeah.
And he just wants to keep running away from it.
Yeah.
And this guy's he's 23, man.
Yeah. And the thing is the further you push it off, the worse it's gonna get. Cause, like, dude, like, like, as you're starting to kind of get older and older and older, your body obviously responds less and less and less to recovery and everything. Like
covers
that.
less. The healing process takes longer. The blood flow.
Yeah, so it's just gonna get worse the more, you know what I mean. It's not like there's this crazy new surgery they're gonna find in the next couple of years that you can do surgery without pain or with, you know what I mean. Like, you just gotta do it. Yeah.
You already touched up on moving away from home to university and how that builds you connection. That was kind of my next question. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, moving away from home, like, I remember, so Archie and I lived together in our first year, and I remember...
The England guy.
The England guy, yeah. So we lived together in our first year, and his mom came from England to, like, move us in, or, like, to move him in, I guess. And I remember, like, funny story, so we, like, it's our, like, second day there, and we're, like, about to, like, cook some food, right? I've, like, never really cooked a meal at this point in my life, or, like, I have, but, like, never
eggs, bacon, you know,
like French toast, like breakfast foods, you know, like I've never really, or, like, if I did, it was like pre-cooked stuff that was frozen that you had to just warm up, kind of thing, or, like, cook noodles, or, you know what I mean, like, not really cooking, you know. And so I remember. I was like, oh, I don't want to use the oven because it was really hot in our house, right? And I was like, oh, we didn't have AC, and it was like plus 35 in Kamloops at this point in the year. I was like, all right, I'm not using the oven. I'm just gonna use the stove top. And I remember, like, oiling up the pan, taking a full chicken breast and just slapping it in, just like slamming it in the pan, and, like, just, like, cooking it like that. And then I remember I, like, had it in there for, like, maybe 2 minutes, and then Archie's mom was like, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna
burn the whole...
Not even that. Like, she was like, you're gonna get food poisoning. Like, you're cooking a chicken like that. She's like, at least chop it up. Yeah. And then after that, I resorted to just ground chicken. Just way easier. Yeah,
I think you went through a phase, right? Like, you just had ground
chicken,
went through, like, keto?
No, it was carnivore.
Oh, wow.
I had carnivore for 3
Was that
months.
Kind of around the same time of moving in?
No, it was kind of towards the summer, and when I was, like, really kind of just, like, focusing on, like, my, like, getting, like, in the gym and stuff, like, after season. And I was just having a bunch of ground beef every day and no carbs. And honestly, I felt amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah, I felt great.
But it is expensive, right? All that meat,
Yeah.
So for moving in, you've had to learn how to cook. Or clean as well, right?
Yeah.
There's no mom around.
I still haven't really learned the cleaning part. No.
Balance your time, because you got to train. You got to. There's no in university. There's no teachers chasing after you. You have to put in the work. You got to make sure you show up for practice. You got to make sure there's you have a way of transportation. You got to make sure if that is a time where that you are available to go to the event without sacrificing the next day. So all these things. What would you advise to someone who is new to living alone?
Yeah, I think honestly, I wish that I would have taken a cooking course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, like it would have. I think like actually benefited me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah. Also too, I wish something I would have done was like go to the grocery store with my mom prior to moving away.
Yeah.
Cause like
yeah,
I like
you look,
dude. I was just like
it's a whole
lost.
new world, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like. I was like lost for like a lot of time. Like I'd be walking like, what do I even need?
Yeah, bro. Like I felt that when I first started grocery shopping myself.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing I've never really moved away from home, so still got parents to call. I still, if there's more to cook, I just wanted to eat a different diet. But you walk in there and you don't know what to get. There's so many. Do you go with the organic? Do you go with this meats? Which meat? Like what is it?
I'm at the point now where Superstore $10 packs of the ground beef, like the you know what I mean, the like the little tubes of meat. My roommate always made fun of me. This year she's like, that just looks disgusting. Like, how do you eat that?
She's missing out.
I know. She's missing out. If you just put enough salt on it,
yeah, bro,
it's fine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Should get an air fryer, bro.
I have an air fryer.
Oh, dude, you put that in and you just put in the time.
Really? I never found that. I was like, maybe it's because I always try to cook it frozen. I just put it right out of the freezer and just...
Really? Dude, you gotta thaw it out. It's still protein.
It's not that deep, you know. Like, yeah.
That's fair.
The air fryer, though, is
clutch. It's clutch.
My favorite snack is... You ever seen, like, the breaded chicken strips at Superstore, the $10 ones?
Yeah.
Dude, you just throw them in the air fryer for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Killer.
And you can just... honestly, the macros are not bad either. It's like... For every like 3 chicken strips, it's like 120 calories and like it's like 30 something grams of protein.
Yeah, that's
or 20 or
no, get one of those.
12. It's like 12 and 10 grams of protein. So 120 and 10 grams of protein, and then I usually have
the protein.
Yeah, I usually have 9, so it's 30 grams.
Works well with your stomach. Doesn't give you any. I know with the frozen stuff, it always it's not as
not as great for stomach.
Not as great for the digestive tract, but protein definitely. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you and I we've gone to church together. With Bryce. How does faith play into your life?
Yeah, I think it's like a large portion, and I don't know. I think everybody's like faith journey is very different. You know, you kind of like experience different things as time goes on, right? And so everybody's gonna have a different faith journey than the next person, and I think that mine has definitely been not like a normal like Christian faith journey, and like I think moving away, it's been like a little bit tougher because I've always like now began to rely more on reading scripture rather than going to church. Just because like straight up just like it's easier for my schedule. There's a lot of times where we don't have the like we're away on Sundays, like we're traveling Sundays or stuff like that, or like I have to get assignments done and stuff, and like obviously like faith is like one of the most important things in my life, but I think that like learning it by myself has been
it's your own journey.
Yeah, and like that's the thing too, is like I think I've always like kind of seen it as like it's very tough at times to like believe that like the church is where you're gonna find the most success in that. And I think especially too when like everything kind of started coming to light with like the residential schools and like everything that the like churches have done in the past and stuff like that, where obviously like I think it's like it was like very different back then, but like you see that, and like even too, I don't know if you've like there's this one Joe Rogan podcast where this guy named Brian comes on and he talks about psychedelics and Christian faith. And he talks about like the it's like paleo Christians.
I've seen clips.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about how like a lot of Christian practices were based around like psychedelics and everything like that. And so like when I see stuff like that, and like they talk about like that the reason they stopped doing that is to like bring the church in to make money for profit, I was kind of like, okay, like I can kind of make sense of this. I still enjoy going to church. Obviously, I still think it's a very beneficial thing in someone's life that they can do. So I still like have tried to go to church when I can. And I think like in sports, it's obviously like one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like very important to me and stuff. And like, but I think like the main thing I've really been trying to focus on recently is like my like relationship with God. You know what I mean? Rather than trying to become one with the church and everything like that. Like I do believe that that's something I'll probably end up getting to later, but like I think there's like steps to it in my opinion.
I think you had mentioned scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
That it's very important, right? And then what you said about how that's your relationship. It's your relationship with God. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of follow the church or follow a religion, just not taking a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Right? It's your journey. Like how does this make you feel, and what's your purpose in life? And all these questions come out. And for me, it's the same way where I think he's the most just perfect human. And like stories about his sacrifice and the way people treated him and how he bounced back from that.
Mm-hmm.
And just hearing stories about that in the Bible. I think I've haven't been reading as much, but I want to be a better human being and be in service to others. And there's all the answers in
scripture.
In the scripture. And actually I had posted it. That quote's phenomenal. I want to memorize the whole thing. I only memorize sections of it.
Yeah.
But this one, it goes, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving has an external glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal."
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 Corinthians 4-8, 9, 16 to 18. But yeah, it's just stuff like this. I see that and I can apply that to so many things in my life.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is like we a lot of times we are like too quickly to blame God for the things that happen. Mm-hmm. And I know like this year like was probably the worst I've struggled with my faith and stuff like that. Like just from like I lost a friend back in November, and I think thank you. And so I think like there's another kid on my team who's a Christian, and I remember talking to him about it and just being like, it's like one of those hard things. And I think when you like experience death, it's like one of those hard things where you're like, okay, like I don't like, you almost like you want to just be so angry at God because you're just like, this is, you know what I mean? Like this is God's will.
Yeah. And why did this happen? To me?
And that's the thing is like and I think that things like that are what kind of like turn a lot of people away from faith, right? And you know what, like straight up, I still haven't, I guess, like found my footing again with my faith because of that. And like to be honest, like I think struggle within faith is like one of the hard things to do because you're just like once you get off track with it, you're just like I know for me, like there was like a very large period of time where like I stopped praying, I stopped reading scripture, and like, but I think if someone were to ask me, "Are you Christian?" I would still say yes, regardless of my actions. Which like, I mean, I don't know what people think of that, right? Like, I mean, I don't really care. I think I still like believe, but it was almost like I just like wasn't like I didn't want to like talk to God. I didn't want to like
because the actions that you've done doesn't really align with the values. Do you ever feel like guilty about it?
I remember like, dude, yes, I felt guilty and stuff, but parts of me were just like, it's just like one of those things where like, just like I was giving God the silent treatment, which obviously isn't right, but I remember just like that was like the only way I found I was not moving forward, but like I was just angry because I was like, all right, I'm not gonna thank God for anything in my life right now because of what he's taken away, which obviously isn't the right way to look at it, but I think in the moment that's kind of the way it feels. And like that feels as if that's like the right way to go about it. You know what I mean? Which obviously it's not. But I remember like there was a point where I was like packing to come home a couple days ago, and I had four or three books. I had my journal, I had the first David Goggins book, and then I had this like book. Can't Hurt Me, yeah. And then because I haven't actually read it yet, and I had this other book called Relentless, which was like written by like one of Kobe's trainers, and I was like almost done Relentless, and I remember like I was like I moved out of my apartment and I'm moving into a new apartment and I was like packing all my stuff, and I remember like this was like literally 4 days ago, and I like had these books and I'm like putting them in my bag to like take home. Like these are my books that I'm gonna finish these 2 books, right? And I remember like I grabbed my Bible to go put in the box. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I can't do this. Like I can't be taking like some book written by a trainer over like my Bible, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And I remember like being like, all right, like if I don't take my Bible with me, like I won't open it up. Like I'm not going to open it back up when I go for like the summer, you know what I mean? So, and I'm like, I said to myself, like, oh, like I'll save room and I just will use my Bible app. And I know that that's not true. I know that that's bullshit, you know what I mean? So I ended up taking out the Relentless book because I was almost done it anyways and putting like my Bible in it. And I think that kind of like gave me like the sense of like, it was like a breath of fresh air. You know, I was like, okay. I feel like I'm a little more back on track to where I was than before.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that another thing that like we've talked about is like the like use of psychedelics for faith. And so many people who I've talked to who are Christian, like, oh, like they're like, how do you feel closer to God? I'm like, I do mushrooms. Like, and they're just like, that is so wrong. And like so many people like think it's wrong, obviously, and like
Bryce.
Yeah, like Bryce. And I remember we were on a run one time. It was us 3, and you were like, yeah, I did mushrooms the other day, and I swear I talked to God. And Bryce was like,
he was so mad.
He was so mad.
Like, shut up. No, I saw like beings getting lifted to heaven. I saw I was closer. He's like, shut up. Like
I remember him being so mad, dude.
Yeah, dude, he was cheese, but he's got to try them.
I know, and that's the thing, can't judge till you try it. And everyone I've talked to who's a Christian who have used mushrooms, they're like, yes, it like actually you feel closer to God. And that was like one of my things was I like kind of have like told myself that like I want to dive back into my faith journey before I start like using substances like that again.
Good.
Because I know that I did them back in February maybe. And it's like a fun experience. Like it wasn't, it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't great, but I didn't really like learn anything from them, which like obviously is kind of like where I'm like, that's like what I want to do. But actually too, living in BC, like stuff's way more accessible.
Yeah.
Dude, I was in Vancouver a couple weeks ago and I walked into a shop, like a dispensary.
I've heard about that. I heard it's being legalized.
Yeah, it is legalized.
It's becoming more and more prevalent because people are seeing that, oh, this is a useful tool.
Yeah, and so I just like went and it's like, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, there's like no way.
It's like a dispensary and you thought, like, oh, this is too good to be
true. Yeah, and so I walk in and I was like, oh, like talk to the girl, and then I was like, told her what I wanted, she brought it, and it was just like, it's just 2 bags of mushrooms, and I was like, this is legit, like, this is pretty cool.
That's awesome. During times of struggle, what do you tell yourself?
I always tell myself that like, that it'll get better. Like I'm very like
you're optimistic.
I'm just very optimistic about everything, and like, I know that like I think a lot of times I like wear my emotions pretty heavily on my sleeve, so I'm just like, oh, like I might in the moment not think like there has been some times where I've like sat down, I'm like, dude, I don't know if I got it in me, and I'm just like, and then I have a moment, maybe shed a tear or two, and just like take like my moment by myself, and then eventually I'm like, all right, now I'll figure it out. Like, I kind of have this thing I always say to my friends and stuff. I've said to them, I'm like, all right, like, you're gonna figure it out because you've always figured it out, and like it's gonna work itself out because it never hasn't, And I always think that like every single thing we've like dealt with this thus far, it's like we've already dealt with it. You know, it's
There's
like
an answer.
yeah, and so that's the thing is like anxiety is one of those things that like when we're like looking towards things in our life and we're coming with an anxious mindset, it does nothing for us, and I've come to realize that very quickly. And so I think that I've been trying my best to be like, all right, like this is, if I'm going in the direction of like, I don't know, like even I was struggling to like find a place to live for next year, right? And I remember just being like, all right, well, I have a place to put all my stuff. I don't have a place to live yet. I'm like, I'll figure it out, you know? I'm like, I'll figure it out. And even last year, when I was like looking for a place to live, I like was just like, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, holy crap, like
bogged down.
Yeah,
you're immersed. You're like, oh gosh,
yeah.
overthinking.
I'm like, yeah. I was like, all right, like I remember there was even a point where like I'm like, I have to call my coach and tell him I'm not coming back because I don't have a place to live.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is so stupid. I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? And I'm kind of at the point now where I'm like, all right, this is gonna like work itself out. Like it is what it is, kind of mindset. So
great. And the problems that we experience, right, at that time, it's the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's like the world is on our backs.
Mhm.
Like, how are we gonna prove to ourselves? How are we gonna reach happiness? And we keep reaching and reaching, but then we find out months later, even a year later, we look back on that moment and we go, I got through it.
Yeah.
And the same thing's gonna happen that very same day where there's another problem, and then a year later, you're gonna look back and go, that actually just went by. I got through it.
yeah,
And that's where anxiety, worrying,
yeah,
they're all very futile, right? Well, easier said than done.
yeah,
Really, there's no need to worry, man. Everything, there's a plan for everyone. There's a niche for everyone.
Yeah.
And there is an answer. And you're a very optimistic guy. Very high hope.
yeah. I'd say for the most part.
What type of mindset do you embody on a daily basis to be that hopeful? Because on the days where everybody does struggle,
Yeah.
and life's not all rainbows,
Mhm.
right? How do you maintain that level of hope?
I think like one of the things that I've like tried my best to like embody like a belief system is like being very content with like finding small wins in my life. And like even on like the days where like I have like a really bad day, obviously there's gonna be the write-offs and stuff like that, but I think unless if something very, very wrong and bad happens in my life, I like try my best to be like, all right, like this is kind of like a small win for today, or like kind of just take the best of a really bad situation, you know what I mean? And that's one of those things where you can kind of I guess like you can take any positive out of a bad situation if you like really try hard enough. You know, so I think that's something I've been trying my best to like be good at. Obviously like it's not gonna happen every single time. There's not gonna be like every single bad moment I'd be like, I'm so happy this is happening to me. I can, you know what I mean? Like that's not the reality of it. But I think that like when I'm having like a bad day, like the end of the day when like I sit down, I'm like, all right, if my day was like really, really bad, I'm like, all right, at least I worked out today. At least I got out of bed today and had like my 3 meals that I needed to eat. At least you know what I mean? I had like the courage to get out of bed and go get a coffee from the coffee shop down the street. Or I remember during finals, when I was like writing a final paper, I have like these 3 friends, and like all 3 of us would go and like we go to these like study rooms late at night at the university to like try to get work done. And there were some days where we were all like locked in and just like we were all like doing amazing, and then other days where like I would sit there on my phone with my computer open and just like 1 or 2 words, you know. And those days I was like, you know what? At least I had my computer open. You know what I mean?
I'm surrounded by my buddies.
Yeah, you know, exactly. At least I wasn't distracting my friends.
You came.
Yeah.
You came.
I showed up, right? Yeah. And so I think that's kind of like where you're trying to like get like little wins, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So when you experience adversity,
yeah,
and at the end of the day, you highlight the good things that you did do, right?
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the negative, you look at the brighter side. Like, hey, I did do this. I did do that. I did show up and open my laptop. I did make some memories. I made it through the day, and I didn't just lay in there and did nothing. Yeah. And that's, I feel like a lot of people should embody that, man, because there's too many people out there that one thing goes wrong, their entire day is flipped upside down. Yeah. You know, I definitely see that in all facets of life. Adults, like 40, 50-year-old men, women, that just one thing happens and they're just flipped upside down.
Oh, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
I think that, like, one of the big things is, like, I think for me, I'm, like, I, like, wear my emotions on my sleeve very, very significantly. And I think...
Why is that?
I don't know, I've just always been like that. Like, I've always been, like, people, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm upset, they can tell I'm upset. If I'm happy, they can tell I'm happy. And, like, so I think that, like, part of that is, like, trying to realize that, like, I think even when I'm, like, I look like I'm angry, I look like I'm upset and stuff, I think, like, I might, like, honestly show it a little more than I'm actually feeling at times, you know what I mean? Which sometimes can, like, lead people to get, like, the wrong idea about, like, how I'm actually feeling and stuff like that, but I think, like, for the most part, like, I've tried my best to, like, be, like, grateful and stuff for everything that happens. And
that's a great way of going about things. When you show your emotions fully, right, you're not hiding anything. Yeah. People can be there to help you. People know what's going on. Because if you fake, I think that you're just lying to yourself. And eventually it does show and you end up bursting because you bottle it all up. Yeah. Right? And because there are some very happy people that, and when they're sad, they still continue to be happy. They don't let themselves feel it. So I feel like that's one thing I've learned too, to wear it on your sleeves. Yeah. Because when people want to help. I believe humanity is, like, good. Yeah. So when they see someone who's struggling, and we can't get through life alone. You see someone struggling, you want to help. Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's your family member. Yeah, it's your friend. So there's no point in hiding, and we can't get through this alone, right? Yeah, I have a very close friend of mine who, whenever they're, like, going through something, like, they're very, like, bottled up and everything like that. And I always, like, honestly, like, pester them, and I'm like, come on, like, I get it, you might not want to talk to me about it, but, like, I need you to know, like, that I'm trying my best to help you and stuff like that because I care and stuff like that. And I think that it's like one of the most discouraging things at times is when people are, like, people who don't wear their emotions on their sleeves act like you don't know what's wrong or you don't know that something's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, like, that's, like, one of the things that piss me off the most when I'm like, oh, like, what's wrong? They're like, nothing. And you're just like... You can tell. Like, I could just tell from the tone of your voice. Yeah. Yeah, the tone, from the look on your face, from the behavior. Yeah, dude. Yeah, you can't hide that stuff, man. Eventually, it does show. Oh, 100%. And if it doesn't show on the external side, you're going to do something, right? That's where a lot of mental health crisis stems from. Yeah, for bottling that all up, because... We got to talk about it, man, because the strongest people I know, you, Bryce, Severio, all these great guys in volleyball too that are athletic, that do work out, they need someone. Oh, everyone for sure. Someone. Yeah, dude, everyone needs someone. And, like, I think, like, one of the things is, like, I don't believe that everyone has to wear their, like, emotions on their sleeve. Yeah. I think that that's not, like, a reality of human nature, because everyone is different. But I do believe that, like, as long as you feel your emotions in some way or outlet your emotions in some way, it's, like, it's better than just bottling it all up, you know? And, like, I know, like, some people, like, they just need to, like, go to the gym and, like, just, like, grind out a workout. Like, that's, like, the best way for them to, like, feel it, you know what I mean? And, like, feel their emotions. Yeah, and I know, like, some people, like, however they deal with their negative emotions, it's, like, as long as you're dealing with it in some way, that's, like, the best thing to do, you know? Because it can also be destructive. Right? I've known people that, like, do drugs, man, hard drugs, or, like, just go to the bar and just drink their souls away, or just numb themselves out. They won't go out. Yeah, I want to extend the message that, hey, we're here for you. Right? Yeah, everybody, dude. You're not alone. Yeah, and you know what? I think I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I've had it a lot of times. Like I smoke weed for the most, like I use it every day. Dude, sometimes I just like I have a bad day and my first thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get home and get high. And like that's like, you know what, like I think as long as you're not like abusing it, like that's like one of the things. And like I think like having like outlets like that, because I know you're big on like you don't use alcohol or weed or nicotine, right? And so that's the thing is like
that's new to me though.
Of course, and so I think that I've gone to a point now where like just sometimes I just need it. You know what I mean? And
well,
like,
you do what's best for you. Because for me, I just didn't have use for my life. It actually made me a worse person to consume alcohol, weed, vape. I just thought to myself, hey, there's no role in this life. It doesn't alleviate my suffering, my tension in life. It has no use. But for other people, I know weed for them gets them relaxed. For the people that are hardworking, such as yourself, maybe you do need that. I know a buddy of mine, same thing, every day, and he's very productive. He had just graduated business, and he's got, he's working along and putting in the hours, and it helps him. Yeah,
I think so. I actually did a presentation and a project for one of my classes this year about the effects of drugs on athletes. And it was like basically talking about like, should we allow athletes to use drugs like such as weed, alcohol, nicotine? And we found like a lot of actually really good studies talking about there are positive effects of nicotine in the gym. And so you like look at force output and stuff. Even if it's placebo, there's still actual recorded anecdotal evidence of nicotine being beneficial for your blood flow, vascularity, like just overall like athletic performance in the gym for force output. And then I know like personally, one of the big things that like I've kind of experienced is like, I remember last year, especially not so much this year because I didn't play, but last year I remember there was times where like you go from having 3 classes a day and you go like, okay, like you're waking up at 8:30 at night or 8:30 in the morning, sorry. You're going to your like 9:30 class. So you're going 9:30 to like 10:40 for class. And then you go to second class until like noon, and then you lift from like 12:30 to 1:30 kind of thing. And then you go to like another class, you go eat, you go home, do a little bit of homework, then go to practice, maybe get like some individual rest before practice. You have practice, you're done at like 11:30 at night, 10:30 at night. You get home at like 11, right? I remember for me, like one of the things I was just like, when you have a long day like that, I think like my whole thing was like, all right, if I smoke a little bit of weed and just really relax and just like let it just like really kind of just like sink into my bed, feel relaxed, it's like that's like the bet. That was like for me like the easiest way to deal with my stress in the moment. And you know what, I don't believe that smoking weed and stuff like that is gonna get rid of the anxiety that you have towards the situation. But for me, I always found that after a long day of me being like riled up and everything like that, my nervous system firing at like on full the entire day, and I noticed for me that like I definitely did not I have not solved a single problem by smoking weed in the slightest. But the one thing I will say is that it definitely made me forget about the problem until the next day when I had sleep and I could think about it in a clear mind.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I found that like whenever I would like smoke weed and stuff and I could like forget about a situation, the next day I'd like think a little more clearer about it.
I'm a firm believer of it's your relationship with the drug, because you could have a bad relationship with weed. Because with me, every time I smoked, it's just my problems would be honed in. It would be highlighted, emphasized, and I would feel heavy. Yeah, and it wouldn't be enjoyable. And for you, it seems like it's a great tool and a way to release yourself from the overthinking, from the constant anxiety, right? That plagues your head. Oh, what if this? What if that? And it's just to shut off the problem and then go about it the next day with a clear mind. What would you say to someone who is hopeless right now? and they need some encouragement, and they are lost in life.
Yeah, I think for those who are like religious, I think like finding hope in scripture is like kind of like the easiest way to go about it. And you can like really, it's if you like can sit back and like trust God and like be like, this is all part of God's plan, it's gonna work itself out. I think that's the way. And if you're not religious, I'm not gonna say get religious. That's like, you know what I mean? I think it's like not a realistic thing. But I think if you're lacking in hope and stuff, like I think my best advice, like it's just like you just gotta tough it out. And
there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And like I know for me, like there's definitely been times where I felt hopeless even before I was a Christian.
Bro.
And I think like for me, it was just like it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, all right, like you just got to get through it. Gotta, you know what I mean? Put your head down, work. And I actually listened to this one podcast for philosophy that I used for one of my classes, and this philosopher, I'm blanking on his name, but he said, it was talking about, so for my final project, I wrote about suicide and the ethics of suicide and the ethics of care when it comes to suicide. And so one of my things was, this like philosopher believed, what is the point in killing yourself when you have already endured the suffering? You can't undo it. You've already gone through it, right? And I think not even just like applying that to like feeling suicidal and stuff, but like applying that to like your entire life. It's like, if you've already endured everything thus far, what's the point in giving up now?
That's true. You know what I mean? You come this far, you can get through anything.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is like they're like, I've had talked to people, they're like, oh well, there's gonna be so many more bad things that happen to me. It's like, yeah,
that's life.
There probably will be, you know what?
Probably worse, unimaginable pain.
And at the end of the day, if you've gotten through this, you'll probably get through that, because like at the end of the day, like I saw this quote and it was like, I'm not asking for a lesser burden, I'm asking for stronger or broader shoulders. And like I think when you like look at that, it's like I guess like I look at like issues and stuff in my life of like, all right, I kind of like compare it in times to working out, you know what I mean? And like be like, all right, you're not going to start working out and be like, all right, I'm going to bench 225, right? You're going to start working out and like slowly build up to it until it becomes easy and progressive overload, right? And so I've kind of like taken that and like applied it to dealing with suffering and stuff in my life, where I'm like, all right, when I was younger, like obviously like I've had some pretty not great things happen to me. But I've seen that as like, all right, I have this base foundation of understanding how to deal with difficult situations. And I'm like, all right, every situation I go through now that's a negative situation kind of adds on to this like underlying strength of getting through a situation, right?
Beautiful, man.
So now like when I like look forward, I'm like, all right, I feel like I've been through a lot of shit, right? And I think that looking at that, I can be like, all right, well, if I've gone through like, let's say we put pain or suffering on a scale, and I've gone through 100 things that we're putting as one on the suffering scale. So I go through 100 things, right? And I do that over the course of my life, and I now see something and I have to endure something that's a 25 on the suffering scale. I've already dealt with like basically 100, you know what I mean? Like level 100 on the suffering scale. So it's like this next level of 25, it's like these kind of things I've kind of built into myself to be able to like get through the suffering easier and easier. And you kind of just like work through it as like you progressively get better at dealing with harder things.
Because you went through those things, in the future it'll be easier. Maybe it'll be harder, maybe it'll be easier.
Yeah.
But you're prepared.
Yeah.
You've gone through this thing.
Yeah.
You've got through it. You're gonna go through these things
in
the future, but you accept it.
Yeah.
I think that's truly beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I think I've actually looked a lot at one of the things that I looked at for my final project for philosophy was how Buddhists practice their way of life. And so there's this like, have you ever seen, do you know who Duncan Trussell is?
I don't know.
So Duncan Trussell is this like guy who, he's like a voice actor and like has this show called The Midnight Gospel. It's on Netflix.
I've seen every single episode.
Dude, so you know like the episode that's like, where they're in the soul prison?
Yes.
With the soul bird?
Yes.
Okay, so that is like, that whole thing is like based off of like Buddhism. And so like, you know, like what existential dread is?
Like where your existence and your kind of like an existential crisis, sort of.
No. So existential dread is the anxiety and that odd feeling that comes with not understanding not understanding life's greatest mysteries and never like coming to the realization that you never will. So one of the things that we experience as humans is that we will never be able to know what's after death, right? And so if you like, people spiral with that idea, right? They're like,
people get lost
in that idea, right? And so that's what existential dread is this idea that like we dread and have anxiety over the things that we don't understand. And so basically in the soul prison, the only way that you can get out of the soul prison is by losing your existential dread, which is like the acceptance of suffering and death. And so Buddhists believe that the entire purpose of life is to suffer. And that's kind of like that's kind of like how they see life, right? And so
I love that too. I've been reading up on it. And Goggins kind of has that.
And so it's like, if you endure suffering, it's like they believe that that's like kind of like the point of life is to suffer, right? And so one of the things in like that show, like in the Midnight Gospel, is they have like the soul bird, and they talk about like they say like, this isn't nihilism. It's not like the rejection that nothing is real. It's the like kind of like the acceptance that like the acceptance of like what is, right? And so the acceptance of, I guess, like of what life is called like the greater light, and that's what they call it in like, it's like Tibetan Buddhists. And so they kind of see it as like, to accept that we are not understanding of the great life mysteries is the purpose of life. Right, so to accept the fact that we're always going to be suffering, and to accept the fact that we don't know what is beyond death, we don't know what is the purpose of life, that itself is the purpose of life, right? And so when I look at that, I think, all right, like, I think that that's like a pretty cool idea, because it's like, all right, well, we're not put here to like be super happy and everything like that. Like, that's not a reality. Like, you can't really. It's a lot easier to find suffering than happiness. You know what I mean? And if you can endure suffering and make it a part of your life, then I think you're going to be a lot happier than trying to chase after happiness. And I think that's how like a lot of addictions come along, is chase after happiness. And I don't think that that's like a very sustainable way to live your life.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And the more I run into suffering, the happier I get, actually. Because there's this book called Dopamination, and it's like a seesaw.
Yeah.
Right? The more you tip onto happiness, it's going to swing back to the pain.
Yeah.
Swing back to the suffering, pain, swing back over to happiness, right? So if you put in the time at the gym, right? If you put in the time to having those tough conversations, if you put in the work to suffer. Yeah. Because even yesterday, I was just so bogged down and, oh man, I don't want to do this. At the flip side of it, I felt so relieved after I got through the day.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think like after completing a hard task is like one of the most like
satisfying.
Oh dude, it's so satisfying. It's like when I finished school this year, I remember like on my last test, I had an online test for my last thing. I remember just closing my laptop and just feeling like a sense of relief.
Feeling it like in the Buddhist mentality too. It's like feeling in the energy. Like they do mindfulness, meditation. I do all that.
Yeah, I do too. I've tried to. I think I've been very up and down with it. You know what I mean, with doing like meditation and stuff. But like, I think that that's something I want to get back into, because it takes work, man. It does take a lot of work, and I'm definitely not at the point where I used to be with it. But it's it's part of the process.
Yeah, man. But yeah. That's an hour and 34 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude, it just flew by.
It did fly by.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the long-term podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I'm sure I'll probably be back on.
Oh, you'll be back on, man. Again. This is great. This is amazing. But yeah, as always, everyone, you are not alone. Brendon Lord here just has a lot of good things to say. If you ever see him at Millennium or Kamloops?
Kamloops, yeah.
Yeah, approach this guy. He's got a lot of good things to say. But as always, everyone, keep it long term. Peace.